All right, guys, so obviously with Syracuse basketball not in the postseason, really no need to do any more Syracuse basketball shows. I don't think we're going to talk about Jim Boeheim for the rest of the year. Does that sound pretty good?
Hey JP, we're previewing Duke lacrosse.
Not a chance. Coming up on Cuse Countdown, I give you the instant reaction from the Boeheim press conference earlier this week. Plus, I guess Seth and Michael will break down the Duke lacrosse game. Defending national champions are coming into the Carrier Dome. That and more. It's CC, and it starts right now.
Man, this goes out to anybody who ever lost someone, or anybody who ever had like a big motivation to do something in life. Man, don't let anybody get in your way. Do what you want to do. I mean, people laugh when I said I was going to be a rapper. Look at me now. JD, get 'em.
Hey, hi, how are ya? It's been quite a week for Syracuse University, and we're looking at all the angles. JP Chunga, joined by Michael Barth and Seth Quam, and we got the big information. Daryl Gross and Jim Boeheim retiring in 3 years through an email. Where were you guys when you found out?
JP, I was actually in Newhouse in the live labs, getting ready, preparing for a live shot. All of a sudden, someone says Daryl Gross out as AD. A couple minutes later, Jim Boeheim to retire in 3 years. A lot going on that morning. Needless to say, didn't do very well with my live shot.
So JP, Michael, I remember it like it was yesterday. There I was.
Happened yesterday.
There I was in Egger's Cafe ordering a sesame seed bagel, plain cream cheese, and they just didn't quite toast it long enough, and that's when I knew something was going to happen. It was a weird situation.
It was a bad bagel. What are you going to do? It didn't help out that you got all this information in 1 hour in that span. It was through an email. Kent Severud sent it out to all of the people in the Syracuse University community, and he said Dr. Gross has asked to conclude his tenure as Director of Athletics and transition to a new role in the university. Effective today, Dr. Gross will serve as the Vice President and Special Assistant to the Chancellor and Adjunct Professor in the Falk College. I've appointed Pete Sala, Senior Associate Director of Athletics for Facilities and Managing Director of the Carrier Dome to serve as the interim AD. Don't worry, that's not too wordy because he had more to say. This about Jim Boeheim. Coach Boeheim also told me that he intends to retire as head coach in 3 years. His goal in making this decision and announcement now is to bring certainty to the team and the program in coming years and enable and plan for a successful longer-term transition into coaching leadership. With all of this happening around this program, where does it set it up now that we have time to react with it?
You know what? I think the biggest question is at the top with the athletic director. Not sure what direction they're going to go in. And Coach Jim Boeheim said he's going to stay 3 years. So ultimately, the basketball program should be fine. It's a good thing that Coach Boeheim's going to stay. He's going to right the ship for the next coach who's going to come in, presumably Mike Hopkins. But at the top, athletic director, a big question mark. Don't know what direction they're going to go in. So that's going to be the biggest thing to look out for.
I agree with you, Michael. Clearly, Jim Boeheim did not want to leave the university and leave his basketball team after so many years coaching here and even a student here. He didn't want to leave that in a poor situation and look like he was jumping ship at the wrong time. So I think 3 years will be enough time for him to stay on and make sure that Syracuse basketball has a bright future. And I think that'll happen. AD maybe a little bit more murky, but we'll see what happens.
And some shuffling with that with Daryl Gross. What's your lasting memory of Dr. Gross as the athletic director here at Syracuse?
Well, I think Syracuse fans are kind of don't know what to think because as Kent Severud phrased it in his email, Dr. Gross decided to step down as his position. But, speculation is who knows if he was fired, if the chancellor had those conversations with him asking him to step down. I think a lot of that is going through the minds of the Syracuse community, and unfortunately, I think that may be his legacy.
It's hard to know what was said behind closed doors, but ultimately you have to think Chancellor Severud said something to Daryl Gross, and I think he was the casualty of this. When something like this happens, someone's got to go. But ultimately, I think the lasting legacy is going to be that move from the Big East to the ACC and smoothing that transition. But overall, a shaky tenure as athletic director for Dale Gross.
I'm sure Gross hopes that his legacy is that big, successful movement from the Big East to the ACC.
And I'm sure he would tout the fact the Olympic sports have also been very improved, and the Ensley practice facility that will be helping out the program as well. But now, as we shift over to the big news of the week, Coach Boeheim had a press conference, and we hear from him right now.
And I do regret that these violations happened, and I apologize for any harm it has brought to my players and the university, or embarrassment it has caused to our alumni, students, and fans. However, I believe that my effort to promote an atmosphere of compliance with the men's basketball program was disregarded by the enforcement staff and the Committee on Infractions, and that ultimately resulted in my suspension for the first 9 ACC games of the 2015-2016 season. I deeply regret that any violations occurred in our program, because one violation is one too many. However, given the circumstance, I believe that the penalty imposed on the university as a whole, and me individually, are unduly harsh. And I feel that the NCAA is punishing current and future student athletes for the conduct of a few individuals who are no longer associated in any way with Syracuse University. I feel 3 years is right for me to be able to continue to do my job as well as I possibly can. The approaching completion of the investigation actually prompted me to clarify in my own mind my plans for the future and my decision to establish that timeline with Chancellor Severud. It's a myth that I somehow run things at Syracuse University. Chancellor Severud will hire the next coach. It's his decision who the next coach will be. I have talked to him about it. I believe Mike Hopkins will be a great coach, and I fervently hope that he is the coach here. But that's something the Chancellor will decide with the Board of Trustees, like they decide every major issue that happens at Syracuse University. And I decide sometimes what restaurants my family are going to eat in.
So let's pick it up from right there. Coach Boeheim saying that he doesn't really have that much power here at Syracuse University. Do you buy it?
Yeah, it's a tough one. You know, the myth around Jim Boeheim is that he controls everything that goes on here at the university. I mean, he's a legend. You can't really touch Coach Jim Boeheim. I don't know how much I buy it, but I do think, you know, some of these things are out of his hands and up top with the Board of Trustees and the Chancellor. So I do buy it a little bit.
I do think that in some ways he's definitely someone that the community looks up to, but I don't think he's above the law. I do think there are other people telling him, okay, here are the rules, this is what we got to follow, this is what you need to do, and he, I think, does his best to follow those things. I thought he performed very well in his press conference. He seemed very relaxed and very cooperative with the media, not like he sometimes is with the kind of sassy comments there in the post-game pressers. So I was pretty impressed by Jim Boeheim, and I'm inclined to believe him after that.
Well, he was up there on the witness stand for basically an hour, and we took him to the courtroom last time out. But looking at the way that this team will be affected going forward, you've got Ron Patterson and B.J. Johnson, according to the Syracuse.com, that this team will not be having them going forward as they're transferring. How does that affect the program?
Well, I think it's a little bit disappointing for Syracuse for a few different reasons. First is B.J. Johnson showed some light towards the end of the season, especially from downtown, so they'll maybe miss that coming off the bench. Ron Patterson as well, I think to maybe a lesser degree, but I think he did show some skills driving in, especially in transition. And then there's, of course, I think we're all missed seeing Jim Boeheim just rip Ron Patterson apart in the post-game press conference about that shooting 15% from downtown and saying he could do that at 7 years old. So I'm sure we're all missed that. but I don't think it's too bleak of a situation for SU going forward.
Yeah, I think they will be missed. They were part of the rotation, but this incoming recruiting class should fill those spots. And it opens up scholarships that SU will be losing down the road. So in the end, it may not be such a bad thing, and hopefully they can replace these two players with better players coming in next year.
And you got to remember, Chris McCullough will be coming back at least for the latter half of the season, so I think that'll be a big boost for the Orange.
And Caleb Joseph as a second-year point guard as well. Now, we could spend all show talking about this, but the show must go on. We shift our focus to the lacrosse turf as we preview SU Duke. The defending national champions are coming to the Carrier Dome. Your primer next.
They're coming. Places, everybody.
Light check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Everything looks good on our end.
And lights.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Looks like it's done.
Don't let salmonella get funky with your chicken. On average, 1 in 6 Americans will get a foodborne illness this year. You can't see these microbes, but they might be there. So learn the right temperature to cook each type of meat. Keep your family safe at foodsafety.gov.
No 2-3 zone, but Syracuse men's lacrosse has some success, starting with Ben Williams winning the opening faceoff and taking down Siena 21-7. That's starting them off hot, right, Michael?
Oh, yeah. Always want to get off the right foot, especially with the schedule that Syracuse had.
Midfielder Hakeem Leckie beating the Cornell goaltender. They won that matchup of the two Central New York rivals 14-6. Took down Army 12-9. And then Virginia, the first ACC game. They performed well, Seth.
Big win over Virginia. You see there some nice shots from outside, and Dylan Donahue giving a few spin moves. You like to see that for the Orange.
And they continued their good form against Johns Hopkins, winning that one 13-10. And now the hot start has all been due in part to the goaltender. Bobby Wardwell isn't sharing the cage with Dominic Lamolinera like he did last season. He's improved his goals against average, save percentage, and general sight on the ball. What's up with this turnaround?
It's hard. You can't really say it's just the defense getting better. Bobby Wardwell has shown a lot of success and progress from last year. I think it helps that he's not splitting time with Lamo.
Yeah, I think it's the natural progression, going from junior to senior year, and he's got the whole goal to himself for the whole game.
Now the face-off X, another area of improvement. Ben Williams is licking an old Syracuse lacrosse wound. Only since 2010 has the Orange had a FOCO that's won 50% or more of their face-offs. And Ben Williams is second in the country in win percentage and off to a roaring start. All right, we'll go straight to the SU Hopkins highlights for the last time that this team was out on the turf. You saw a little primer for you, but here it is. Kieran Eisler got it started, putting Hopkins up 1-0 in the first quarter. Hakeem Leckie would score the opener for the Orange. They were down 3-1 at that point in the first. But then the Blue Jays would get their largest lead of the game, 5-1, another big hole. Michael.
Yeah, very slow start for Syracuse, very alarming. Hopefully they came back in this one.
They certainly did. Nicky Galasso got it started for the Cuse as they were up 6-5. But again, Shaq Stanwyck would score to tie it at 8-8. And then good ball movement. Patrick Frazier scores the goal, ties it at 10. Then, the two. Kevin Rice, Dylan Donahue, yeah, they're pretty good at this game. 11-10, Syracuse up in the fourth. And they would continue it with Randy Stotts getting the icer. 13-10, Syracuse would take it by that final. Syracuse off to their best start in school history since 2011, so don't worry. And they're now 8-1 against Hopkins since 2008. An impressive game against a big rival.
I think the big thing and the big storyline for this whole season is what you touched on earlier. Syracuse's success from the face-off position. Ben Williams has come in, been a huge impact. We used to always say here on Cuse Countdown that if Syracuse could just have a Fogo guy who could get over 50, 60% of the time, then they would have a really good season. And now we can see that. So this is a good sign for the Orange, and we'll see how far they can go in the season.
6-0, what's been the recipe for success for the Orange so far, Michael?
I mean, I think you have to look at faceoffs and then the defense. When you're controlling the ball, the other team's not going to get many possessions, but when your defense is that good, they're not going to score many goals, and I think that's been a very good recipe for success.
It's easy to say great job to Bobby Wardwell and to Ben Williams for coming in and being that difference maker, but of course we can't forget about the old stalwarts, the Randy Stotts, the Dylan Donahues, the Kevin Rices. They're what is holding this team together, and they have kudos to them for continuing their strong performance over the last couple of years.
Now that we've looked at the game against Hopkins, we can look forward to the one coming up on Sunday. Duke comes to the Carrier Road. You don't want to go anywhere. Cuse Countdown is back with your preview, and we meet them next.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
When I get all steamed up, then I shout.
Tip me over and pour me out. Oh. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Cheers. Take time to be a dad today.
An hour with Jim Boeheim is an hour too long.
What kind of restaurants do you think he goes to with his family?
Delmonico's, obviously.
Parking spot there.
Exactly. He loves the stuff there, and
I don't blame him.
How long do you think that conversation goes between him and his wife? You know, is it just like, he's like, okay, we'll go? I don't know.
5 seconds.
Thank you. You got a king?
Go fish!
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
If I got to go to college, oh my goodness. I like discovering new things. You get to see what works for you and what doesn't. That helps you evolve as a person. You get to make like a supernova of skill or talent or whatever it is. I've always wanted to go to college. I just feel like that's my destiny. My name is Queen, and I am your dividend.
Syracuse and Duke. Two legendary coaches, two legendary programs, quality players on both sides, and a fierce rivalry to boot. Think I'm talking about basketball? Well, I've got you, like Gene Parmesan. Cuse has struggled in their matchups against the Blue Devils during the regular season. The Dukies dominated their last meeting in the regular season, 21-7. Well, let's see when they met in the postseason. Syracuse and Duke met in the ACC semifinals, first round of the postseason for the Orange as they faced off with the Blue Devils. Deemer Class, he's still on this squad. He scored the opening goal to give Duke a big lead, 2-0, and then Christian Walsh, no relation to our executive producer, scores from deep, 4-2, Blue Devils. Now, the final seconds of the half. This is insane because it was right before the end of the half. Case Mathias scores, Duke up 10-8. Then again, they extended a 3-goal lead in the second half. But oh, remember when Kevin Rice and Dylan Donahue led a Cuse charge against Hopkins? They started it against Duke. And then look at this, a save from Bobby Wardwell. SU using defense to offense, long poles to short poles, bigs and smalls working together. I love it. It's fantastic. They score. Dylan Donahue ties it up at 14. Oh, don't celebrate too soon. Jordan Wolf goes top corner, beats him 15-4. Duke. Stotts goes behind his head to find Billy Ward, ties the game at 15, and starts this.
It's 5 seconds left. He's at the top of the box. 4. Down to Rice with 1 second. Feed down to Donahue. Shot. Goal. Syracuse wins. Dylan Donahue with .2 left. It counts, and Syracuse is going to the ACC championship game.
Kevin Rice tallies 8 points, 3 goals and 5 assists. Like you said, they're going to the championship game. They lost to Notre Dame, but you don't need to know that. Syracuse wins this one 16-15. Big win for the Cuse.
Get some revenge after that 21-7 drubbing in Durham in the regular season.
Shout out to Evan Weston there with a nice call on WAER. That was a fantastic finish to both halves. You saw Duke score right at the end of the first, and Syracuse got the win at the end.
Now that was a big win for the Orange, and you heard it from Evan Weston on the original home of it. Well, now it's time to meet this year's squad. They've lost Jordan Wolf, they've lost Christian Dion, they've lost Christian Walsh, that is. Josh Dion is the other attackman that I'm thinking of, but they returned 4 starters. And we start out by meeting Duke, starting with the big guy, Miles Jones, who's 6'4", 240.
Yeah, you said it, the big guy. This guy is an absolute beast. I mean, he can do it all. Physically, offensively, and defensively. Has 45 points on the season, 12 more than the second leading point scorer on this team. I mean, what more can you say about this guy? He'll be on the top of the Tewaaraton watch list, could be the one taking home the hardware. But Miles Jones, a great player, somebody Syracuse is going to have to lock down in this game.
Justin Gutterding, the next guy to look at. He's a freshman with 27 goals. He's near the leaders in scoring in the NCAA set.
Well, JP, Justin Gutterding roughly translated in German means better thing or good thing, and he has certainly been a good thing for this Blue Devils team. Coming in his freshman year, he did go to 1 year of prep school after high school, and he leads the team in goals with 27. That's 3.5 per game, and that is 5th best in the nation.
Michael, take me to class.
Deemer Class, another Duke midfielder on the Tewaaraton watch list. Had 10 points in the regular season game against Syracuse, as we mentioned, that 21-7 drubbing of Syracuse. And 17 points, 9 assists, a very integral part of this talented Duke midfield. Brandon Mullins in the Syracuse defense, another tough assignment for them.
John Danowski, the head man for the Duke Blue Devils. He's got 3 national championships. Seth, what else is there to say about him?
He's a fantastic coach. JP, as you said, 3 national championships, and that's just in 8 years as being the coach of Duke. He certainly hasn't been coaching for the Blue Devils as long as Coach K, but he's certainly one of those legendary coaches for that Blue Devils school, at least judging from those first 8 years at the head man position.
His father, Ed, was a quarterback for the New York Giants. What do you know? The stage is set. The final countdown is just around the corner. Stick around. Seth and Michael pick the game, and that coming up. Don't go anywhere. Cuse Countdown is back.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today.
Aww, you should pick that up.
Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look, your crush is looking at you.
Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach
likes
your
you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
Need more in your life? Well, do I have a place for you. In between cat videos and teens singing covers of Sam Smith songs, check out our coverage of Syracuse sports on YouTube. Just search Citrus TV Sports. Do the same for Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You won't regret it, I'm sure. Fast break time. JP Chunga joined by Michael Barth and Seth Quam. Now, you know how we do this. I give you the lowdown. You agree to finish it off or defeat it. So the first one, a spot that Cuse fans always worry about, the face-off X. I say Syracuse has 50% or more at the face-off X.
I'm going to finish this one, JP. Ben Williams has been superb on the season. Just about 68% success rate at the X. Jack Rowe for Duke, a very good face-off man, 60%. But in the end, Ben Williams is going to get the best of him. Definitely over 50%. I'm going to finish this one.
I agree with you, Michael. I'm also going to finish this one. And you look at these two teams, both are strong at the face-off X. But if you look at who Duke has played, a lot of those teams, Providence, Air Force, Mercer, Harvard, all four of those teams are right around 500 at the face-off X or a little bit below. So I think their strength of schedule, at least at the face-off position, has been a little bit weaker than Syracuse's, and that leads me to believe that Syracuse's strong performance will continue more than the Blue Devils.
Jack Rowe did have an impressive day against Georgetown, winning 21 of 29. But now the Orange is rolling offensively, so I say SU scores 10 in this game.
I definitely going to finish this one off. Syracuse is averaging 14.8 goals a game. That's 5th in the nation. I think they'll easily get over double digits.
Yeah, JP mentioned that 21 of 29 stat for the Duke Blue Devils. They gave up 13 goals despite winning 60% of their faceoffs. Syracuse will score over 10 goals.
It's like I'm teeing you up. But also, you look at the fact that the SU defense has been very impressive. I say they don't allow more than 10 goals. No, I'll say that they do give up 10 goals or more.
I'm going to go for the three-peat here and finish it. They will give up more than 10 goals.
Oh, wow.
Bobby Wardwell, you can only do so much. Very talented Duke offense, midfield attack, a lot of scorers there.
Third time in a row, I'm going to finish this one off as well. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. Duke is going to score 10, 12, at least over double digits.
Now we've set you up. Time to wind it down in the final countdown. Michael, what are you keying in on?
My X factor for this game, Syracuse needs to come out of the gate fast. Last two games, very, very slow starts against St. John's, 4-0 at the start of the game. Johns Hopkins, 5-1. If they do that against Duke, bad things are going to happen. This team is too talented to come back against. And I know it's an experienced defense for Duke, but you can't spot them 4 goals at the start of the game.
So both of these teams are extremely talented, so I think the game is going to be a bit of a toss-up, which is why my X factor is whichever team has more intimidating eye black. You see all these lacrosse players after the game in the post-game press conference, they've got eye black all over their face. I think whoever has more intimidating is going to win.
Not sure how that's going to help them out on the scoreline, but so I'll ask you right now, what's your prediction for the score?
I'm going to take Syracuse 15-12 over Duke.
I'm taking Syracuse 18-14, high-scoring affair. They're going to win this one over the Blue Devils.
Last regular season matchup, Duke took it 21-7. A football score at that. Should set up for a cracking matchup. Make sure you catch OPP after the game, 4 hours after the opening face-off. For Michael Barth and Seth Quam, I'm JP Chunga. You can also check our content on YouTube and on Twitter. Just search Citrus TV Sports. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. I'll enjoy it as well. Enjoy it, Cuse fans. Until next time, bye for now.